Good evening, everyone. We are continuing on our study in the book of Second Samuel, and we are supposed to do chapter 20 today. But before we get to chapter 20, let me just revise one verse, which is the last verse of chapter 19. And it says, um, this is, and then the men of Israel answered the men of Judah and said, well, earlier on in verse 42, the men of Judah said that they are there first because the king is a close relative to us. It means that the king, who is David, is part of Judah. And that was why the men of Judah arrived first to receive the king. Now, in verse 43, the men of Israel is now making another claim. The men of Israel says, we have 10 parts in the king. Therefore, we have more claim on David than you. Now, this is something I want to dwell on just for a minute. We see, number one, the arguments why and who is supposed to be there to receive David the king first. And so when Judah is saying David is a brethren, and because David is Judah. But when you come to Israel, Israel is arguing that they have 10 parts. So this is 10 of 12 parts in David. And so if David is a piece of property, David is owned by 12 tribes. And out of the 12 tribes, Israel has 10. And therefore, Israel is supposed to be the big brother in Oriental terms. And Israel is supposed to be there to receive the king first. But the conclusion as a commentary was saying that the words of the men of Judah were harsher than the words of the men of Israel. And the word harsher there is more right, more strong. Because in the eyes of God, in the way that he looks at things, blood relationship is more important than the number of votes. And so in the Hebrew culture, blood is thicker than water, and it is not so much as how many shares you have in the kingdom, but how the king is related to you. And hence, this would be the acceptable reason why Judah went to receive David. And of course, in this conclusion of chapter 19, Israel would not be happy. Israel said, I made a decision to have David come home. Why is it that you are ahead of us? And Judah said, we are ahead of you because David is our brethren. And Israel says, we have 10 portions of claim on David, so we are bigger. Now, why is there such a conflict? It's because in the Oriental terms, they have a protocol that says that the greater is supposed to be there first. And Judah has claimed to be the greater of the two. And hence, this is the conflict. In chapter 20, verse 1, we now begin the story that there is a worthless man that happened to be there whose name was Sheva, the son of Bichri, a Benjamite. And then he blew this is not the trumpet, by the way, this is a shofar. And then he says, now we have no share in David. Do we have any inheritance in the son of Jesse? every man to his tents, Israel. Now we need to break this down because there is a number of things that's happening here. The number one is, it is not, how would you say, a worthless man. It's not so much a worthless man. I think you can say that he was wicked. He is uh, he is bent bent to destroy. He is that kind of a man who prefers destruction than construction. I think that would be a better way of describing this word. And he happened to be there. Where is this? Happened to be by the shores of Jordan. They came and they were disputing with Judah. And he is a Benjamite. And then he blew his shofar and he signaled to all Israel, right? All Israel, which is the 10 tribes, the northern tribes. He says, we have no share in David. We have no inheritance in the son of Jesse. And with this, you can see that there is an A and a B. Every man to his tent, leave. Right? Leave and go back. That is what it means. Every man to his tents. Let's not stay here anymore and let's go. And so verse 2 now describes that and then, this is and then, after the blowing of the shofar and what Sheva has called out, and then all the men of Israel says withdrew. This word is not withdrew. This word is ascended. This word is ascended or went up. Went up from following. It means to go after. This word is to go after. Go after means behind, right? If this was David, and David is going this direction, then these men were supposed to be behind David. This is behind. And they left David. That is what it means. And so it says they withdrew, they ascended up. Actually, they went up. Instead of following David, they followed Sheva, the son of Bichri. But the men of Judah remained loyal to the king from the Jordan, even to Jerusalem. Now, this word remain loyal is a very interesting word. And the word here is davak. Davak means cleave. Cleave means, and the man shall leave his father and mother and shall cleave to his wife. That's what it means. Cleave. It also means to stick close. And so the English Bible now interprets it to say it remains loyal. Basically, the men of Judah stuck close to David from Jordan even to Jerusalem. Verse 3, this word is, and then after they reached Jerusalem, David came to his house in Jerusalem. His house, remember, is made of cedar wood, right? And then the king took the 10 women, the concubines whom he had left behind to take care of the house. And then he put them into the custody, into the guard house. Now, this word custody is not that he's arresting them. This would be a guard house. And this is a safe place. and then provided them, and the word provided means sustain, took care of them with food. And then he says, and then he did not have relations with them. It means that David from here on never had sex with the 10 women concubines, because if you recall, they were the ones who were raped by Absalom in public. Now, this word here doesn't mean that they were locked up. So this word is not quite correct, right? They were not locked up. I would say that they remain bound, right? Bound as widows. And this word, to the day of their death. The literal word is for the rest of their lives. And they are bounded, they are committed to live as widows. It's not a word that says that David locked them up. David never did that. And what is important for us to realize is that this is a conclusion of the 10 women concubines, not wives, and likely not free women. They are bonded women, and they are still taken care of after they have been raped by Absalom. Verse 4. Now, verse 4 and 5 now discusses something quite different. So in verse 4, it says, now, and this would be, and then the king said to Amasa, understand, Amasa was given a third of the army to take over from Joab, right? To take over from Joab. And these were the instructions that David had given him. It says, call the men of Judah for me 3 days. Right? 3 days. And you stand here yourself. No, stand here. Meaning when the men of Judah comes, you also be there as well. And so this 3 days is quite interesting, because much of everything is given 3 days. 3 days is a period of time long enough to do something. Right? Long enough for something to happen. And so in verse 5, it says, so, and this would be, and then. Amasa went to call the men of Judah. And then, this is what, and then. He was delayed longer than the set time that has been designated to him. And so the word delay here is that he was behind time, right? Behind time. Then the set time. Now this word is moed. This is the appointed time. Just like the feast days are called moed, the specific time that God wants Israel to come to Jerusalem, the place that God had appointed, to celebrate the Passover, unleavened bread, to celebrate the Shavuot, the Pentecost, as well as Sukkot. And so that is what set time is. When David gave him a time, that was the appointed time that was appointed to him. So, long story short, let's carry on to verse 6. Verse 6 says this, and then David said to Abishai, now Sheva, the son of Bikri, will do us more harm than Absalom. So understand, Sheva is going to be more damaging. Now, what do you mean more harm, more damaging? And the word harm is evil. Understand, evil is in the eyes of the beholder. And this beholder is David. And David said, Sheva would be worse than Absalom. And so he told Abishai, take your Lord's servants and chase him so that he does not find himself fortified cities and escape from our side. The idea of fortified cities means walled cities. And once you're in walled cities, you can't find them. Verse 7, it says, so Joab's men went after him. Him would be Abishai. He went first. Now, there were other people, along with the Kerethites, the Pelethites, and all the warriors. Now, what do you mean, warriors? These ideas here, I think we have a problem in the translation, I would say. And so let's take a look at this. The men who went after them were the Kerethites. The Kerethites is known as the archers. The Pelethites are known as the slingers. And the warriors. Now, the warriors are there who will go out and fight. The warriors are the mighty fighters. So these are what we mean by these words. That Joab to bring the archers, the slingers, and the mighty warriors, and together they left Jerusalem and then went after Sheva. In verse 8, we find that they were at the large stone, which is in Gibeon, which is in Benjamin area. Amasa came to meet them. Now Joab was dressed in his military attire, and over it he had a belt with a sword, and his sheath strapped on his waist. He went forward, it fell out, and it would be the sword. And here it is Amasa and Joab. Note that these are the two gentlemen that is in question right now. As we say that the sword fell out, you need to understand that the sword fell into the hands of Joab. Verse 9, Joab, and then Joab said to Amasa, is it well for you, my brother? And then Joab took hold of Amasa by the beard with his right hand, as if, I think we need to say this, as if to kiss him. And so Joab was trying to pull Amasa over and to, well, I guess you can say a shalom kiss. Verse 10, it says, and then, Amasa was not on guard against the sword which was in Joab's hand. Not on guard. Not on guard means in the nephil sense, not aware, right? Not aware. How would you say? Not careful. against the sword which was in Joab's hand. He bent forward, the sword fell out, and Joab caught hold of it, and now it's in his hand. The word so is and then. As Amasa was not on guard, he struck him in the belly with it. Now he struck him in the belly. The word belly here also means the fifth rib. And Joab has killed before exactly the same way, right? Exactly the same way. And there is no way for how should we say no way for Amasa to get away from this. Just like Abner was killed, so was Amasa. And Joab seems to be that individual in the story, in the life of David, who has been going out to take care of David's back. And so as he struck him there in the abdomen, out spill his, well, the intestines means his bowels, right? His bowels to the ground, but he did not strike again. So he only struck once and he died. After that, this is and then, right? And then Joab and his brother Avishai pursued Sheva of Bichri. Now the story goes is that in verse 11, a young man, right? I guess we say a young man, one of Joab's young men stood by him. Him would be Joab, and said, whoever favors Joab means that he is for David. Follow Joab. And so this word here, if you favor Joab, then you will favor David. And so follow Joab. Come after Joab. Now back to Amasa. In verse 12, it says, and then Amasa was wallowing in his own blood in the middle of the road. So he was struck and he was left there. And then and then the man saw that all the people stood still. He removed Amasa from the road to the field and threw a garment over him. When he saw that everyone came by him, stood still. So now we have this situation that we have a man standing by. And so we're talking about this man who was standing by. And when he saw that everyone stood by him, he moved him from the road so that people won't step onto him. And he covered him. And so this is I guess, a sign of respect from the dead to cover the face, I would say. Verse 13. Verse 13 says that when he was moved from the road, all the men went on after Joab to pursue Sheva, the son of Bichri. Verse 14. And then he went on through the tribes of Israel to Avel, or Avelah, right? Avel or Avelah, and this is a city that that Sheva was trying to hide. And so he went through the city to Avel, that is Beit Ma'akah, right? Beit Ma'akah. And all the Berites, they assembled and went after him as well. So everyone is now chasing after Sheva. In verse 15, it says, and then they came and besieged him in Avel Beit Ma'akah, which means that in that city, it is a fortified city, right? A fortified city. And I guess this city has two walls, right? Two walls. The first city is very big and very strong. And then the second city is the second wall is the one that surrounds it. And there is a gate right there. And David's army under Joab built up an assault ram against the city, and it stood against the outer rampart. All the people who were with Joab were wreaking destruction in order to topple the wall. And so they made a ramp, right? This would be a big wall. And so what they did was they built a ramp to walk up, and the people around was creating destruction. And this destruction is about, how should we say, in verse 15, this destruction is about toppling the wall. In verse 16, verse 15, toppling the wall is to destroy the wall, right? Is to destroy the wall. And so they were wreaking destruction. And that is what the soldiers who were with Joab was doing. They were besieging it. Besieging means they were around it, all around. And so you find that nobody can go in and come out. And the people in this place, Avel Bet Ma'akah, is now very disturbed because the Judah family has now come to seek out Sheva, right? To seek out Sheva so that they can catch hold of Sheva. And this is in the city of Avel Beit Ma'akah. So this is the situation that the front part against the outer rampart, this is already fallen down. The outer wall is down. And so now we have the inner wall that is supporting the city right now. So this is what it means. It stood against the outer rampart, the outer wall, and it was down already. So they have an inner wall which they are sustaining themselves. Verse 16. Then a wise woman called out from the city, listen, listen, please tell Joab, come here that I may speak to you. Nothing, I guess, nothing much to comment on that. It literally says what it means. Verse 17, and then Joab approached this wise woman, and then the wise woman said, are you Joab? And he said, I am. Then he said to him, listen to the words of your slave. And he said, I am listening. Basically, the wise woman has a plan. And he knows Sheva is inside. And if there was bloodshed, there were a lot of innocent people who will be killed. Verse 18. Now, verse 18 then says this, and then she spoke to Joab, saying, in the past, they used to say they will undoubtedly ask at Avel. And that is how they ended a dispute. This dispute is very clear that if they argue over things and they cannot resolve it, they will always come to Avel, and somebody there will be able to sort out the problem. Verse 19, I am one of those who are ready for peace and faithful in Israel. The woman or the wise woman came out saying that you should consider me as part of your people, because we're not here to fight. We are here for shalom, for peace. You are trying to destroy their city, even a mother in Israel. Why would you swallow up the inheritance of the Lord? Why would the army go and take away land from the northern kingdom? And hence that would be the argument against the Yoav's army. But Yoav says, oh no, oh no. And Yoav replied, and then Yoav replied, far be from it, far be from me that I would consume or destroy. It means that I have not come to swallow up or destroy you. I am here in peace. In verse 21, it says, Sheva is not the case. Such is not the case. Verse 21, such is not the case, but a man from the hill country of Ephraim, Sheva, the son of Bichri by name, he is not the case. It's not like this. He is not wanting peace like you all, like the wise woman. He has raised his hand against King David. Now, this is an Oriental expression. Raise his hand. Right? Raise his hand. What does that mean? It is to shake fists, and that is mocking. Raise his hand against is to fight or rebel. Depends how you look at it. It is to fight against King David. Only him turn over. Only this guy, Sheva, and I will leave here from the city. And the woman said to Yoav, behold, his head will be thrown to you over the wall, which means that the people inside are going to deal with Sheva. They are putting Sheva, also called Beth HaMakkah. And that is important. That is very important. That the occupants in this city do not want trouble, and they recognize David, and they don't want to lose anyone in the process. And there are mothers, and so needs to take care of children. So these are all considerations for Yoav to take the city. Verse 22. It says, then the woman wisely came to all the people, and they cut off the head of Sheva, the son of Bichri, and then they threw it back to Yoav. So he blew the shofar, and they were dispersed from the city, each of his tent. And Yoav also returned to the king at Jerusalem. Now, what is important now for us to understand is there was a success in the proposal of the wise woman. And she managed to convince all the people in Beth HaMakkah or Avel, Beth HaMakkah, and they literally cut off, right? They literally cut off the head. And this word is karat, right? And you can say cut, berit, or here cut off the head. And after that, threw it over the wall to Yoav as a sign of understanding that they both had. And now Yoav blew the shofar. This is not trumpet, it's shofar. And then the Israelites were dispersed from the city, each to his tent. And Yoav also returned to the king at Jerusalem. And so Joab is going back after a successful but stained mission, because first he killed Abishai, and then only he managed to conquer Avel Hamaakah. Now, with all this said and done, verse 23. Verse 23 says, now Joab was of the entire army of Israel. Now, this is the entire army of Israel, which I guess earlier on in chapter 19, right? This is 2 Samuel, chapter 19, verse 4. It was given to Amasa. Now, Joab was placed back in command, and then there is another player. The player is Benaiah, the son of Jehoiada, and he was over the, how should we say? He was over the archers, not the Karatites, and the slingers, people who use the sling very expertly. Verse 24, we have another name, Adoram. Adoram was over the, how should you say? It's not really forced labor, all right? It's not really forced labor. So let me just put here, it's not forced labor in this sense. It would be over taxes. It would be over taxes, and taxes is seen as, how would you say, as a task, right? As a task over, I guess, as a task over labor. So you understand, taxes is placed over whatever men work, and they have to pay taxes. So Adoram is that person. So it is not over forced labor as Egyptians over the Israelites. It is not about having slaves in the army of David. This is very much concerning taxes. When they implemented taxes for what is worked, right? For what people do, and taxes are done. And so taxes are also applied until today. We have another name here, is Yehoshaphat, the son of Ahilud, and he was the secretary. Now this word here, secretary, he is the one who records for the purpose to remember, right? For the purpose to remember. So if you understand this word, that is called secretary, it would be hamatzkir, from the word remember. And so this person is to put all these together, to record everything that is happening, so that in future people can bring to mind what has happened in the past. That, I think, that would be this word here, and not really secretary as in the modern English sense. Verse 5, 25, and Shavah was the scribe. The scribe is a person who writes, right? Who writes. And likely this is to write the Torah, the scrolls. Next, you have Zadok and Aviatar. They were the Kohanim, the priests, because that's what we saw. Zadok and Aviatar takes care of whatever is needed for the ritual. Verse 26, the last verse. And even Ira, the Yairite, from Yair, he was also the priest to David. Now, this word we have to pay attention. And this word priest is Kohen. And this word priest is Kohanim. And so let me explain this before we end. The word priest here and Kohanim literally means the ones who takes care of the tabernacle, the sacrifice, the rituals, to teach the Torah, and to take care of all the laws and commandments with regards particularly to the rituals. But interestingly, in verse 26, this word priest is also Kohen. But the word Kohen is broader than just the ritual, the ritual priests, right? There are other meanings, and this would mean this guy would be a chief official, a chief ruler. What else can we say? He is a what we say, a principal official. In short, you can call Ira the right-hand man to David. He has the right-hand authority of David. And so the word Kohen doesn't necessarily mean priest as in the rituals, as in the tabernacle. The word Kohen can also mean a chief official, chief ruler, a principal official to David. It means that he will, well, I guess you can say he could be a judge as well. As somebody who is in prime authority to rule and to take care of the people besides David as king. And so in chapter 20, we come to the end. We see how David sent Joab, first Amasa, and then Avishai, and then Joab, settled the score with Amasa because he was the one who didn't want to go after Sheva. And so Joab killed him. And we will come back to all of these because Joab has been what we call the fixer for David, to fix what David doesn't want to do or cannot do. And he is doing it on his own because he is taking his initiative to kill all these people. And it is a problem to David, and it becomes an even bigger problem as the chapters come by. Now, in the end of chapter 20, you find that there is a reorganization. When David comes back and takes on the rule, he is now very old. He is in his 80s, or in the year 80, probably. And he is now restructuring his administration, I guess you can say that. And new people and old people were put in place so that there will be a semblance and appearance of control, back to normalcy. And David is once again king over all Israel. And that's the conclusion of chapter 20. But bear in mind, there are a lot of undercurrents that is happening, and David is now old. And with this, we come to the end of our session today.